Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. I'm Lars Opolinski. I'm an account executive here at HR Strategies Consulting. And so a little bit about us. We're a boutique technology and consulting firm committed to helping HR and IT leaders address complex HRMS challenges with real-world business solutions. So today, our topic is onboarding best practices. So really glad that you could join us. I think you're going to get a lot of value out of this. And I'm going to turn things over to our Vice President, Terri Joosten, who's going to be leading the presentation.
Thank you very much, Lars. And again, welcome everybody today to the presentation. We know you have lots of options with your time, and we appreciate you coming to share more on onboarding today. The group that has decided to join us has been part of a number of people very interested in onboarding. I think we had several hundred people download our onboarding white paper and are now interested in potentially taking onboarding to the next level and looking at technology to enable that. So we're going to talk a little bit at a high level about onboarding, not very long, and then we're going to get right into a solution suite called SAP SuccessFactors and show how some of the world's leading organizations are doing onboarding best practices using technology. So really, when we start to think about onboarding, it's really moving us from tactical to strategic, which is very similar to everything we should be doing in HR. We want to stop this being people that are pushing paper and being transactional, and we want to move HR to strategic in the organization. So when we look at onboarding and the balance of talent acquisition and employee development, it's really tactically about automating some of the things that we do and keeping us legally compliant from an onboarding perspective, starting with day one from our employee. And what we really want to do is enhance that from just really being around a function that has to happen when we hire somebody to right from day one being a little bit more strategic and aligning our new employees with the goals of the organization, with the learning needs and development that they want to have for themselves in their present role and their future roles. And we really want to engage them at the highest possible level from day one inside of our organization. And that really changes the game from being more compliance driven and tactical to being strategic. So what would success factors be without the word success in our presentations over and over again? But really what we want to do is keep onboarding on track and remove bottlenecks. We still want to ensure we have all that compliance and we want all the form completion inside of our system. A lot of our customers have anywhere from 3 to 30 onboarding forms. And for an employee to sit down on their first day and spend 1 to 2 hours in a room filling out their name and address 30 times isn't a really great start to an employee's day. So inside of systems and solutions, we can automate all these forms into documents that are live and live with the employee and pre-populate that data and information. We can even have that information actually done well before they step in the door. So those first 2 or so hours that the employee's in that room, they can now start to be productive inside your organization. And of course, we want to streamline the movement of our employees both in and through, and unfortunately or fortunately, depending if they retire or are terminated, even in offboarding inside the organizations. There's a big change and a shift on the marketplace that you may or may not have heard about. It's called human experience management. So we're finding now that companies that are selling in the HCM space, as it used to be known, are now branding themselves as HXM for experience management. Because quite frankly, how we treat our employees from the very first time we engage with them, which is probably in the hire process, all the way through to when they leave our organization from retirement perspective, ideally, or termination. We want to make sure that each and every touch point we have with our employees is optimal. It's about treating our employees as good or even better than we treat our customers. And the direct correlation that we have with how happy and connected our employees are to the success we have in dealing with our customers out on the marketplace. So think of it as giving employees everything they need to succeed, and that's, knowledge, information, technology, mentorship, connections with inside the organization. So this goes above and beyond what we just classify as culture, but culture is also obviously a big component of human experience management, because individuals will not stay in companies that don't have the core values and cultures that align with them as well. So onboarding is one of the very first, as an employee, touch points that we have, with our new hires. And this is where we can really start the human experience management experience, from that first hire day going forward in our organizations. So how we use onboarding can be a catalyst to this experience management. So why are organizations not achieving best practices in onboarding? A lot of the times, it's around complexity. So there's a number of different systems. They have to log in and take specific learning. They have to log into a different place and take onboarding. They might have to go somewhere and set up their goals. They have to deal with 1,000 people to get the right equipment and details and information. So onboarding itself can be really complex. And also, as pointed out in point 2, onboarding is seen in a lot of organizations as something that you only start to do on day 1, when truthfully now, with employees being so keen to come in and get motivated and get producing quickly, we can start our onboarding process on the actual date of offer or hire and allow them usually at least a 2-week window where they can be starting to introduce themselves to employees and read documents and handbooks and fill out all those oodles and oodles of forms that we have to, access links that have important data and information around their jobs, and really come into the workforce much more prepared than traditionally thought of from an onboarding perspective. The third point is around improper learning and development. So again, what happens when we onboard somebody, we only think about onboarding specific tasks, but we haven't really linked to them the learning items that they need to do based on the job or the role that they hold inside the organizations. So we treat them as a new hire different almost as we treat them as employees. So we're onboarding them, but we're not at the same time aligning with them, how they make a difference and impact the organization, any learning that they may have to take above, sexual harassment training and other policy and procedure reviews that are required from a compliance perspective during onboarding. But we're forgetting other types of developmental and learning things like, on the job types of training, whether they would be enrolled in leadership type of training, whether the job requires them to have health and safety or some type of certification. And it's about lining these all from day 1. Which leads us to the next point, which is the lack of alignment between new hires, manager, and company goal. More and more we're finding out on the marketplace that employees like to go and work for organizations that they know are going to develop them. They want to be able to see where they are and where they can go inside the organization. They also like that type of feedback and alignment to see what the impact they have is on that organization. So if we're not from day 1 aligning them with the goals of the organization and of their managers, it's difficult for them to really figure out and see how they're performing from day 1 and what the expectations are for them as employees and as what their manager and their company expects of them. The next point is around no ability to measure onboarding efficiency and time to productivity. So this is, if anybody's steep in learning, this is like level 4 of the Kirkpatrick's theory. So what we have to be able to do is show and measure what happens when somebody's onboarded effectively and given the tools and coming to the table with all the equipment and everything they need to deliver and be able to measure that efficiency. Without technology, it's very difficult to be able to do that. And lastly is the lack of hiring manager time and engagement to be effectively onboarded. We all get so busy in our own days in our lives that we don't give the proper time and due diligence to onboarding the people that we need to. We often rely on HR and other people inside the organization to handle the onboarding tasks. What we really want to do is set the hiring managers up for success by giving them those types of checklists and tools to be able to be effective in the onboarding, to build those relationships early on, and again, to really help us engage and make our employees more productive over time. So if we do all these things effectively and we deliver all of those best practices, these are the real reasons why we would be doing onboarding. So the statistics show that 69% will be more likely to remain in 3 years if they've been onboarded successfully. The next statistic is 62% faster time to productivity. So I've heard that often be between 62 and 67%. But just think of if you divide your number of employees by your annual revenue, and you think about what each employee contributes to the bottom line, that 62% faster makes a huge impact on your organization. The next is the gains that you occur because the employee is more engaged and more productive. So there's 54% gain out of that type of productivity from onboarding. So these are very real numbers. Great ways to build ROIs for getting an onboarding solution in place so that you can move the needle on the happiness of your employees, giving them that high touch we need from an experienced management, getting them up and productive, and keeping them engaged, because statistics also show that the more engaged you are, the more likely you are to have great experiences for your customers as well. So there's a lot of ammunition here as to why to successfully onboard. This was a case study that it was provided by SAP SuccessFactors for a customer of theirs that took the plunge and bought their onboarding module. So really what they wanted to do was have that great impression from day one for their employees. They also wanted to be able to enable their employees to be trained and be compliant before the start of day one. And then, of course, integrating recruiting and onboarding so the data flows seamlessly right from talent acquisition right through to onboarding. So they chose the SuccessFactors solution, and you can see here on the right-hand side just a tremendous amount of benefits that came out of that. So 100% of the paperwork for new hires are completed before day one. What a novel idea. 100% completion ratio of compliance-related training. So think of all the great savings and risk that's associated with making sure everybody's compliant. But more importantly also is the fact that was seamless for them. It wasn't a second step for HR, so it's a lot less time and effort for us to be able to assign that when it's done automatically on new hire. The next statistic is 48% faster statutory verification of employment eligibility. So again, a big savings for that organization and lifting a lot of the heavy lifting away from HR through automation. And lastly is the 29.4% average time to fill positions and reach productivity. So dropping them down from 34 days to 24 days. So hope that this was helpful around onboarding. Now what we want to do is jump in and be able to show you more specifically the SuccessFactors product suite and why it is that they're the leaders out on the marketplace. And part of that is, you know, as a number one vendor, they have the most customers with over 7,000 customers, 125 million users. They have 4,200 employees dedicated to the SuccessFactors product. It's a deeply global product for those of you that may need that. It's an extensible product, so it has apps just like you can get on your phone. And we've been the leader in the last 35 out of 35 analyst reports. So regardless of whether you're looking at our recruiting or onboarding or learning or performance or the full suite, we're the only vendor that has been ranked as a leader in all 35 out of 35 analyst reports. So there is a full suite of products available in SuccessFactors, and obviously the trend on the marketplace is for organizations to move to an integrated talent management suite, starting of course with your core HR, payroll, benefits, and time and attendance if required products, but layered on top with really rich talent management products, including the onboarding product that we're going to look at and review today, and making sure that everything has good social capabilities and mobile capabilities inside of the solution suite. So with SuccessFactors as being a leader in all of those analyst reports, you can operate any one of these modules independently, and they're both best of breed as well as integrated. So over time, you can build out a fully integrated suite. So I'm just going to close that out, and I'm going to log in here to the actual solution suite, and we're going to show you a little bit about what onboarding looks like from a hiring manager's perspective, a new hire's perspective, as well as from HR's perspective out here on the system. So I logged in today as Jada Baker, and we're going to look at onboarding a new employee. I'm going to pick here Danny Wong. And so here we are with Danny Wong. So what we do when we log in and we go to our onboarding, offboarding dashboard is we're giving a group of tasks to do to start the onboarding process and make it seamless for us as managers and for Danny, our new hire. So we can put in here specifically information that we want to appear on Danny's homepage. So when she logs the first time into the system, she's going to get this wonderful welcome message that is going to start the conversation with her and her boss on the first interaction in our system. We can also pre-deliver text in our solution. So if you want to set a text to Friday before she starts to say, have a great weekend, can't wait to see you on Monday, and maybe one on Monday that says, you know, welcome this morning, just park in visitors parking, ask for me at reception. So we often have best intentions as managers to do these personalized little communications, but often forget. So being able to pre-deliver these while we're going through this checklist, make sure that we have accomplished all those touch points and have the best interactions. So after we've welcomed them on the page as well as through our text capabilities, we're going to start to recommend links for them to go to. So places we may want them to start reading documentations about our products, our services, our customers, about their role, anything we want them to see to enable them to come in the door with a lot more knowledge than normally would have been the case. We can come in here and simply add additional links to information we want them to have. We know in order for them to be successful, there's certain meetings that have to occur. So HR has made recommendations here to make sure that I take them to a team lunch and I do an end of the week recap. You know, I want to introduce them to the business team and I want to do a first day, you know, review. And we can add all different types of meetings. And we should really make sure that their first days, weeks, and even months have some type of scheduled meetings associated to them, to that employee, to ensure they're doing successful onboarding. Next on our list is the capability to sign a new hire buddy or a mentor right here from the system. So somebody, when we as managers might be too busy, that they can go to for data and information and advice around the organization and the job and the function. So assigning that person gives them the capability to have somebody other than us as a manager to go to and rely on in the onboarding stages. Next, of course, is the capability for us to recommend people that they may want to meet in their first days at the organization. So we can have them meet with people like Lisa here, who sits near them, and we know, that Lisa's a golfer and Danny's a golfer, and that they should get to along well. So we'd want to introduce them, and I can notify Lisa that I'm going to be making that recommendation. Joe here, he knows everything, and maybe he's even had her role before, so we want to definitely introduce him as well. And then we can go in and add additional people that we may want them also to arrange meetings for earlier in their tenure to help transition them into the organization. Now, one of the biggest pain points for organizations is around ensuring that everything that employee needs from day one is available for them on day one. Even though organizations do their best efforts to make sure that happens, without a system in place, inevitably employee shows up and they don't have their business cards or their laptop or their security badge or their go-to-meeting, all these little tiny wee things that we need. We want to make sure that they're ordered in advance and that they're going to be there on time for the employee to have everything they need to be successful. They don't want to feel like they were forgotten or an afterthought, or a lot of thought and consideration wasn't put in place prior to them onboarding. So here we can start to request anything that they would need, and it will of course log this, so when we're offboarding them, we can know what we need to get back from that individual employee. So this just isn't, nice, okay, I need to order all these things. In behind here are all the notifications to the appropriate people to make sure that these are all in place, and the capability to nudge those people if they haven't been delivered on a preset timeline until they're completed. And then when we get into the onboarding dashboard, we'll be able to go and we can see specifically where the bottlenecks are and who hasn't completed those tasks for each of the employees. So as it gets closer and closer to their start date, we can put more pressure or escalate if we need to ensure they've got the data and information they need. Now, this alone has been a kind of checklist for managers, but there's other checklists on top of checklists just to make sure nothing is forgotten. So here's our reminder to our managers to make sure they're introducing them, to add them to proper distribution list, to make sure wherever they have outstanding, weekly, monthly meetings are included. If you're having a company picnic or Christmas party or something, make sure that they're invited to that. And then, of course, as a manager, depending on your role in your department and what things you're doing in your job, there may be other things we want to add to our own checklist as managers to remind us to make sure that we're accomplishing for our new hires. And lastly, earlier in the conversation, we talked about aligning them to overall goals inside the organization. So we want to give them goals and responsibilities for themselves. We want to align them to our managers, and ideally we want to give them line of sight as to how everything they do can and will impact, the major goals of the overall organization. We can also use this to help us see how they're achieving in their first 90 days. So if they're not as successful as obtaining a lot of the objectives that we've given them, we can know and identify that prior to their 90-day time period so that we can make that decision to terminate the relationship before it gets more costly for us as an organization. So that's what this looks like from a manager's perspective to set this up. Now I'm going to log out as Jada, and I'm going to log in as Danny and show you specifically more of the data and information that is available to Danny to see on day one. Sorry, so let me log in as Danny here. I typed that wrong still. It's not very helpful. Let's try 103, 155. Again, there we go. So as we log in as Danny inside the system, we know that she's not used to being in a product like SuccessFactors perhaps. So we give her instructions specifically on how to navigate the system. So there's two options that we can do, and one is we can tell her how to take this new hire tour where she actually comes and it steps her through the process so that she knows specifically what she wants to do. So the first thing she's going to do is complete her proper paperwork. Now, SAP takes care of all your legal documents, so if you're in the US, it has all your state and federal specific documents available here. The same for any of you that may be here from Canada or anywhere globally. Those types of forms are also specifically filled out here. Now, part of the extensibility, and when we talked about our customers having between 3 and 30 forms, is the ability to take all those pieces of paper and make them dynamic forms that pre-populate their user, their name, address, date and information, and their SSN or SIN, depending on whether you're in the US or Canada. So everything is here for them specifically. Next, of course, is the ability to look at their peers here, those useful contacts, those useful links. Those are all here specifically for them. We also have another feature that we use throughout the application called Show Me, where you can actually come in and put an embedded video here that can talk to them specifically about how to navigate this particular site also in the system. Now, what you're seeing here is that tight integration with learning that we talked about. So if you have, besides onboarding, if you actually had learning turned on inside of SuccessFactors, we could automatically assign to them any learning that's associated to them based on them being a new hire. So maybe we want them to read, our policy and procedures booklet. Maybe we want them to take sexual harassment training specifically. And then, of course, if they're in a certain role inside the organization, as a manager, or where there's a certification required, or we have standard operating procedures that need to be followed, those things could also be automatically assigned to them here inside the system. We can use this as a communication portal and push out data and information. And again, here's all of the information that we see that we populated as a manager. One of the other cool features around SAP SuccessFactors is the ability for us to do these great 3D videos. So this would be a video tour of your office. So I can come in here and I can look specifically, I can play this video, which is our CEO talking here in the system. I can go to my workplace. I can go, oh, I just launched out of there. I think I clicked on the link there. 1 second. What have I done here? Back to home. Anyways, so I clicked on the link. So I can go to my workplace.
Welcome to SAP. Our lovely colleagues at the desk are happy to.
Right, and I can go specifically to where my desk is, and I can, that was what I clicked on, review to SAP glass doors. But I think you get the gist of it, so we can navigate and show them specifically how to get through the office and find their desk, see the cafeteria, meet their CEO, all of that from here. We can also do things like tell them how to prepare for day one, and even how to specifically get to our offices right here from this particular home page. So these are all great ways to enable our employee to have a lot more data and information about their peers, about their office, about their environment, about the data and information we want them to read on, the goals and responsibilities we have assigned for them, and to have them take care of all of that paperwork that's required, but takes a lot of time if done manually well in advance of coming on site. Okay. Now if I log out as Danny Wong and I go into HR, we can look at this data and information from HR's perspective. So Tessa Walker is our recruiter. She's going to be responsible for onboarding and offboarding. This is her recruiting dashboard. Now we're going to go into our onboarding and offboarding dashboard here inside the system so that she can see specifically what's happening with all of the employees that she has. So I can see what my tasks are. I can see all the things I'm waiting on, so all that equipment and things that I'm supposed to have, anything that's overdue, and of course all of our completed items. So if I come in here and look, I can come in and see, in this case, a US employee, so they've already completed their W-4, their US 8850, they've completed their emergency contact information, and we use E-Verify for onboarding in the US, and all of that transaction has actually happened here inside the system. We can have multiple types of onboarding. So you see we have a US onboarding here. We can have a global onboarding process. You can see we have a Pennsylvania specific one. We can also do cross-boarding. So just as it's important to onboarding somebody effectively, we can also cross-board people effectively. So what that means is if I change roles within inside the organization, I want to again introduce my employees to the proper people, the proper peers, the proper goals, the proper messages, so I can have that same great experience I had as a new hire and into the company as I do as into a new position inside of my organization. And from an offboarding perspective, we have those full capabilities here to create up as many steps of offboarding as you want to. And you can see here that I can, if it's assigned to me, I have that. If I want to, I can come in and I can reassign this to myself if you want to give permissions for that. And then we can go through all the necessary steps, including the exit interview stage. So we can ask them specific questions about why they're leaving the organization so that we can make sure that we're getting data and feedback so that we can take that into effect to stop voluntary turnover from happening wherever possible inside of the system. And we can make sure we're getting our equipment back and we can get all the required signatures that we need to inside the system as well from an offboarding perspective. So this is kind of your dashboard that helps you go through and navigate and take advantage of all of that data and information here in the system. Okay. Inside the solution as well, we can track and show all different types of notifications, and there can be tons of different templates. So as you can see here, based on who you are, how many types of offboarding and onboarding you have, we can go into the system and be able to look at notifications and be able to create any type of templates that we want to inside of the system and be able to see specifically what types of emails they will get. So here's our welcome email. You can see that that's all done through mail merge inside of the system. So the amount of templates you can have are unlimited. It's all about configuration inside the system so that we can make sure that you're able to customize and provide the context and information that you need to inside of all of these notifications so that you're able to project what you as an organization thinks is most important throughout any of these particular phases. In here is also the types of internal notifications that you need to do. And you can see we can even have integrations here with DocuSign inside of the system. Okay. So I'm hoping that gives you a little bit of insight on how a product like SAP SuccessFactors could streamline a lot of what you're doing inside of the application to make it more effective for you from an onboarding perspective. We'd love to have an opportunity to work with you and dive in deeper to all of that feature and functionality inside the solution. And in order to help expedite that, Lars has put together a special offer. Over to you, Lars.
Thanks, Terry. Well done. Something like 80% of people decide in the first 3 days if they're going to stay with your company for longer than 12 months. That's what some studies have found. So this isn't really fluffy, stuff that doesn't have a big ROI. You can spend months recruiting top talent. Once they sign with you, you want to make sure that your onboarding process properly supports them and sets them up for success. Here at HRSC, we're excited for 2020, and we'd like to kick that off in a big way. So I wanted to share with you a special offer of our onboarding feature that you've just seen, to reduce time to productivity, improve retention rates, reduce your administrative time, create a generally superior user experience for your new employees, and online storage of documents. So everything that you've seen so far, with a per employee annual fee of $7 per employee and a one-time implementation fee of $15,000. I'm happy to go into more detail with this, with you on this if you're interested. So please do reach out. I'm always available. Once again, my name is Lars Opolinsky, and for simplicity's sake, my email is sales@hrstrategiesconsulting.com. And do reach out if you'd like any more information or a copy of this slide deck.
Thanks, Lars. Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest things we should have put in the beginning of the presentation. Is one of the biggest inhibitors around onboarding is the fact that people think that the cost to use technology in onboarding can be insurmountable inside of organizations. And we're hoping that let you know that it is a cost-effective medium for you to be able to jump in and take advantage of onboarding. And it takes really no time at all to recoup those types of costs for your organization. So those fees are meant to be compelling for you as a small to mid-sized organization to take advantage of the solution. And if you do have over 2,500 to 5,000 employees, there are even greater discounts available for you based on economies, based on the number of license that you buy. So please reach out to Lars and find out further what we can do to even enhance the discounts available for this onboarding package for organizations that are large. We appreciate your time today. Thank you very much for spending it with us. Love to engage with you, want to help you with onboarding, with or without technology, and look forward to seeing you on a future webcast. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.
Thank you.